Most of us have one camera that we carry on us all the time. There's so many different options and opinions on what the perfect everyday carry camera is. So today we're going to look at different types of cameras, break down the pros and the cons of each in terms of them being an EDC or an everyday carry, and then we'll pick out my favorites. So make sure you stick around to the end so you can hear all of my picks, and comment below with yours and why it would be your EDC. All right, let's go. So we're going to start this off with my personal favorite, point and shoots. So for point and shoots, I'm going to count anything that is small and has full auto or fixed features. So for film cameras, this could be anything ranging from the smaller, sleeker Yashica T4 all the way to a more bulky kind of 80s Nikon L35AF, or even a compact zoom like my Canon SureShot 76, or something super simple and kind of entry level like the Rito Ultra Wide and Slim. For digital, I think what constitutes as a point and shoot is a little bit more complex and debatable, but for the purposes of this video and what I use, I'm going to go with the Digicam, which is kind of something that's being debated in itself right now. But something like this Nikon Coolpix or my Canon G2, the Canon PowerShots, those are kind of like point and shoot style digital cameras, Digicams. So I absolutely love point and shoots, and the reason for this is they pretty much always have built-in flash, which I love. They're light, they're auto, they're easy to use, they're like pocketable sometimes. They're just really great everyday carry cameras. If I am out and about with my 2-year-old, I don't always have the room to carry around an SLR or the time to really execute a shot on a camera like that. So carrying a point and shoot is a great option for me. If I'm out and about and I have a point and shoot, if I see something that's really photo worthy, I can just quickly whip it out and take a photo really quickly. This happened recently. I was so glad that I had a camera on me. I saw this ping pong table and the light was just really great. I took a quick shot with my Minolta AFC. I kind of didn't think that I really nailed it or it would even come out looking how I thought it would. And oh my God, it looked amazing, and it's sold quite a few times on my print shop. So if you want to check out that shot, I will link it below. Some limitations with point and shoots are that they are going to have less controls, especially with film cameras. They tend to have wider focal lengths, and when they do have a zoom, the image quality is generally not so great. Most digicams have small sensors, and older models tend to be limited in how high the ISO can go before the image quality becomes kind of terrible. It's also hard to get bokeh looking portraits with these kind of cameras if that is your thing. It's not my thing, so it doesn't bother me, but I can definitely understand not wanting to make a point and shoot your go-to if any of these things affect you. Point and shoots also create a lot of anxiety for people as they're worried that they're going to brick at any moment. And as somebody who has been using my Yashica T4 on client work, like jobs, I am so worried that at any moment the camera could just stop working, and then I always have a backup camera, but I just worry that I'll look really unprofessional. So I kind of like being in that zone. I find it kind of exciting, a little bit anxiety inducing, but exciting. And for me, just shooting with a point and shoot is totally worth it. So I'm willing to cop that. So what is my point and shoot EDC? It would have to be my Yashica T4. This wouldn't have originally been my choice as I just wouldn't be able to afford it, but I was actually gifted this by a viewer. I've mentioned it before in other videos, and it is an amazing camera. I'm sure that you've heard of it, but it's more the size of this camera that I find myself picking it up and using it. It's just really slim, and it's got a case that fits nicely. My L35, I have to tape it up and untape it when I want to unload it, and it's just got a lot more kind of problems, whereas this is pretty sleek and seems to be working totally fine. And yeah, I just know the images are going to be great. I haven't had any issues. I can't think of a full frame camera, film or digital, that has a lens this good in this small of a camera. If you can, let me know. Next up are rangefinders. Zero sound. So in this category, I'm going to put cameras that are true rangefinders, but also cameras that are kind of just like rangefinder-like, if that makes sense. I will put cameras ranging from a Leica M film and digital cameras, or a more affordable option like a Canon Canonet, which are true rangefinders, through to the more zone focus style cameras like the Olympus Trip 35. I'll also pop in the Fuji X series here, like the various X Pro, XE, and X100 models. I am not particularly a big fan of rangefinders. I get that a lot of people like them for certain purposes. I totally appreciate that. For me, I don't get that out of them, but I can still pick one out of the bunch that I like the most. Something that's great about rangefinders and kind of makes me wish that I liked using them is that they're not too much bigger than a point and shoot. They have really small lenses. They do tend to be a little bit heavier, which is kind of a downside, but not as heavy as an SLR. I also tend to really lean into the direct flash, like on camera built-in flash look. And with rangefinders, you're not really going to get that unless you attach something, and then it becomes kind of a little bit more complicated and more thought is needed and planning. And that's not really my style. Well, like attach a flash, you know, attach something, get the flash. So for me, all those things make rangefinders kind of not really a viable option for it being an everyday carry. I really, really want a flash if I'm going to have a camera on me like every day, because I don't know where I'm going to end up and need flash. So about the only thing that I like doing when I'm taking photos is manually focusing. I'm more than happy for all the other settings to be on auto, but I absolutely love like focusing with an SLR. It's just so lush, so nice. I do not enjoy the rangefinder patch and zone focusing, having to like work out how many meters away roughly something is, involves maths, and that's just like not something that I want to do while I'm out trying to like enjoy my hobby. So rangefinder, no. I like really hate rangefinders. I think where there is a strong argument for rangefinders over point and shoots is being able to set your aperture and shutter speed manually. If you're photographing faster moving subjects, being able to bump up the shutter speed, I think is pretty invaluable, especially in that kind of like street photography setting. Also, a lot of the time I want to prioritize depth of field in my images. So being able to stop the lens down manually would be something I'd find useful, as sometimes my shots with a point and shoot aren't as sharp or have a shallower depth of field that I was really wanting. But alas, we can't have it all. Moving on to digital. As far as digital, I think Fuji X cameras are pretty amazing, and I have reviewed a few here on my channel, even though I'm only a digital dabbler. I'm actually strongly considering getting the X Pro 4 if it comes out and is good, as we have collected a bunch of Fuji X compatible lenses and adapters now, and it would be really cool to be able to delve more into that world and be one of the like Fuji people. Hey Faisal. So my everyday carry camera for digital would be my Fujifilm X20. I have made a video on this and it is such a cool little camera. It's one of the early X series cameras, and while it has some limitations, the images it produces are truly beautiful. That combined with the small size and the built-in zoom, which I absolutely love, makes it a total sure thing for an everyday carry for me. So yes, this Fuji X20 isn't a true rangefinder, but pretty much the only true rangefinder in digital would be like the Leica M series, and that is out of my price range. It's probably out of yours too. If it's not, then good on you. As far as film cameras go, I honestly haven't been lucky enough to own a true rangefinder that really worked for me. Some of that, I have to admit, is the fact that a lot of these cameras were older, so they weren't working properly or they had some kind of issue. Other than my Texas Leica, the patches have been hard to see in lower light, and it's just really irritated me. Maybe if I'm ever lucky enough to own an M or some other high-end rangefinder with a bright patch, my whole opinion would change. But that's kind of unlikely to happen anytime soon. So the only film camera rangefinder that I've had a fairly good time with and probably would use again is this Olympus Trip 35 that was gifted to me by a lovely viewer. Thank you. And yeah, this wasn't too bad of an experience, but I think that's probably down to the fact that it has a Zuiko lens, and I just love Zuiko lenses so much. Most of the photos came out in focus for me because I was just on infinity because I was shooting a lot of landscapes and things kind of far away, wanting just everything in focus. I didn't get too close up and I didn't really capture anything that was like moving. So it was pretty easy for me. This is kind of like shooting with a point and shoot when you shoot it like that. So it did really work for me in that way. And I think it's a really cool camera. So now we're on to SLRs and modern mirrorless cameras. So I love using true SLRs with optical viewfinders, like my Olympus Pen FT that has featured heavily on this channel, and also my Olympus OM10. So these are pretty small and lightweight, which makes them great contenders for an everyday carry camera. However, a lot of SLRs do tend to be very bulky and cumbersome and heavy and just hunks of metal that you end up carrying around. And unless you take a lot of photos, you kind of think like, oh, damn, like, why did I bring this? And why didn't I bring something else? At least that's how I feel. If I know that I am going out to shoot something specifically or finish off a roll in a camera, then I am all for taking a bigger, bulkier SLR and really like committing to that and shooting it. It's when I'm out doing other stuff, I really don't want that kind of weighing me down. I do feel a lot more in touch with the process when I use cameras like that. So I can see why it would be somebody's choice. But I think the older I get and when you have a family, you know, your life just changes. You just kind of reach for things that are easy and don't feel like they're kind of adding stress to your day carrying them around. I think there are some people though that will EDC and SLR, those who just have a love or connection to that type of photography where seeing through the lens optically is really important to them. They're generally much more advanced as well, and deep features and levels of control are something that a lot of people are going to want if they really want that manual experience. I know my partner will happily carry around something really, really heavy as long as he's got complete control. I recently did a video on the Olympus E620 and I absolutely loved that camera. So if I could get a smaller prime lens to go on that and like use it in art mode, I 100% would probably make that one of my EDC cameras. The way I have that camera set up at the moment though, with the kit lens and battery grip, it's a bit big even though it is on paper one of the smaller digital SLRs you can get. So everyday carry film camera, SLR, would be between these two and it's really hard to choose. But I think I'd go with the OM10 only because with the Pen FT, I'm unlikely to carry it with me unless it's kind of already got a roll in it because I don't know like when I'm going to finish it. And sometimes I'm out shooting and I really want to like finish a roll and send it away so that I can get some photos back and kind of get some like, you know, input and inspiration and feel like I've done something. And with the Pen FT, as much as I love it, 72 shots is a lot. And I find myself kind of rushing through the roll sometimes trying to finish it because I'm close to the end and I just want to get it done and out of my life. Whereas with the OM10, you know, it's just a normal like full frame camera. So I'm, you know, easily going to shoot 36 shots when I go out. I also really love, this is completely superficial, this Cameradactyl orange grip. It doesn't really add any like weight or kind of like bulk necessarily to the camera. And I've got these like Peak Design lugs and I can put one of my colorful double film straps on. And I just think it looks really, really cool. And that makes me want to use it. I always get heaps of comments when I'm out because people are like, wow, look at your camera. Like it's so colorful. And I feel like it really matches my personality and that makes me want to shoot it. And I'm sorry if that's really shallow, but that's just how I feel. And the Zuiko lenses are amazing. I've got the 1.4 and that pretty much lives on there now. It's just so much easier to focus through that. And I just love this camera. It's super, super easy to use, like the metering system and everything. I've used it on jobs. I've shot some of my favorite rolls of film through this camera and I would 100% be buying another one if it broke. And that's how I know that I love it, you know? Another reason that I love this camera is that because it's the consumer model, you know, you could definitely get another OM that's like, you know, way more like flexing. But I love that the OM10 is simple and it was aimed at, you know, the consumer. I think it was aimed at women as well, which is kind of like offensive, but I'm kind of like owning it. I'm like, I love this camera. And yeah, that just makes me feel like way more connected to it. And I love and embrace that, like, that is what I love about photography, is that this camera makes it easy for me to take photos and I don't have to think about it. So I can spend time thinking about the actual photo that I'm making, because that's why I'm doing it. So whilst this isn't a compact kind of practical choice, like I was saying with the point and shoot, it's more kind of emotional. And I think our everyday carry doesn't always have to be practical. It can be what you feel connected to and what you know you've already made really good work with. I know that doesn't actually add up at all, like, but I just shot a really great roll through this and I just feel confident when I have it. So that definitely drives me to pick this up, even sometimes over a point and shoot, especially if I want to feel more connected to the process, because I love point and shoots, but if I shoot with point and shoots too much, I kind of just feel like I'm just like pointing and shooting and there's just flash going off and I'm not actually really like doing anything, and I want to like get back to it and like do some of this. So that's when I would pick this up. But it's good to have a balance with both. This, you know what I mean? Like you just want to like touch some stuff, you know? So we touched on a few of the more rangefinder style mirrorless cameras from Fuji, but as a note to the rest of the world of modern mirrorless, I think we will leave that today. I think that would be too big of a segment to add on to this video. There are so many different mirrorless cameras now, ranging from ones with small sensors right up to medium format. I'm not very familiar with the latest and greatest in digital cameras. Like I said, I just don't shoot that much digital. And it's not because I'm like a film snob or anything. I know sometimes it comes across like that in the videos and people comment like, oh, I'm a film shooter, but it's like, I'm only saying that so people know that I'm not an expert on digital. And to be honest, I don't choose film because of the process even, or like the tangibility or anything like that. I just like the way it looks. I don't really like editing or even really know how to edit. And I don't really know fully how to use digital cameras. Like they stress me out and it just wouldn't be enjoyable for me. Whereas film cameras, they're pretty simple pieces of machinery really when it comes down to it. Like the same way like fixing an older car is easier than fixing something that's like electronic. So I just like using them. I feel comfortable with them and I'm not a film snob. So I love to hear from you guys in the community. So comment below with your EDC and why. Feel free to follow my segments that I've done or make up your own and we can get a little discussion happening in the comments about EDC.